Interesting episode. Shamea, I kind of feel like you're not as innocent as you are portraying yourself to be. Let's talk about it.
Welcome to the Asia Esterak Hour, where film meets conspiracy and pop culture gets a reality check. From sharp recaps to sci-fi theories and media deep dives, Asia Esterak serves it unfiltered. Let the binge begin.
All right, Real Housewives of Atlanta, season 16, episode 11. All right, this episode to me was a bit more serious. There's a lot more serious things going on. So I'm not going to cover everybody. I just want to get to the meat and potatoes. So we do open with Angela and Charles. They meet at this cute little rooftop restaurant thing. We kind of see more of their dynamic. They have a very Al Bundy, Peg Bundy type of dynamic. She loves on him. He acts like he don't like her. It's kind of funny. She actually tried to get him to kiss her, and he was like, "Why do you want me to give you a kiss?" A little awkward, but it was funny. But they do mention her mother and the whole issue with her sister in that scene, which it must be really bad because they have to bleep the sister's name out. And to recap, I guess the sister jumped on her daughter Amari over a car. Sounds very silly. Sounds deeper. So in that scene, they're flashbacking to Angela talking to her mom on in the car on speakerphone. And she's asking her mom, like, why didn't you say anything when her sister jumped on her daughter? And the mom's like, I was in shock, da-da-da-da. But Angela said something that stuck out to me. She said, you never say anything, like you always have. You never say anything. That was interesting. So later on, after that scene, but later on in the episode, her mom actually comes to her home and they do talk about it. So apparently Angela bought the home that her mom and the sister and them lived in. And the mother reveals to her in the scene that she bought another house. She says she doesn't want to be a burden on her and she wants to do things, by herself, which I thought was cool. I mean, most people be living off their rich in-law, kid, mom, parent, whatever, so that was kind of interesting. But there's something there that, maybe they'll elaborate on, but I sense that there was something deeper, especially the fact that she's having issues with her sister and her sister jumped on her daughter. That for the lady to jump on her niece, that's a lot. I don't know. Maybe we'll learn more about it. Maybe we won't. But rest in peace to Angela's mom. Angela's mother passed. I didn't know that, but she had posted it on Instagram last night. But Angela is such a great addition to the show. I absolutely love her. I do feel like she does the most at times, but that's a part of who she is on the show. She's definitely the MVP. She's definitely the bone collector. She's a nice addition, and I look forward to seeing more of her and Charles and more of her backstory. So Shamea and Cynthia meet up after that at this cute little spot. Interesting conversation. So of course they discuss what happened at Porsha's event, and obviously the relationship and the probably the breakdown of Porsha and Shamea's relationship. Here's my thing. I love Shamea. That's never gonna change. I love her unless she does something absolutely ridiculous. But Shamea, you sit in this conversation with Cynthia and you don't own the fact that you were talking about your friendship with Porsha and your issues with it to the other women, specifically two people that she wasn't getting along with at the time. And that was Angela and Drew. And then I was just like, why is she not acknowledging that? That's weird to me. You literally sat with one of her ops and talked about her. You could have shut that down, but you didn't do that. You shut it down any other time, but you didn't then. I thought that was a little, or you didn't then. So I thought that was a little, obviously it is apparent. My friend and I discussed this a couple weeks ago. It's apparent that there's something deep. There's something deeper than what we're all privy to here on television between the friendship between Shamea and Porsha. That's apparent. If anybody was watching the blogs last week, Shamea went on the Breakfast Club and basically explained that they didn't start off as friends. Their parents were friends. And, by proxy, they became friends. And then, stayed cool all through high school and clearly into adulthood or ish now. But, and she mentions that there was a breakdown between her mom and Porsha's mom because her mom and Porsha's mom were tight. They even showed pictures of them. But she said something happened between them and obviously their dynamic changed. What's frustrating to me about that is the producer asked her in her confessional, like, do you want to tell us what happened between them? And she's like, no, I'm not getting into that. Okay, then why mention it? Because clearly that is affecting you and Porsha. That is a blind man could see that. So don't come on national TV and talk about this situation and this breakdown because we're only getting little snippets of it because I don't think it's all Porsha. I think it's both of them. And now you don't want to tell us what the root cause of it is. I'm sure that's not the total root, but that clearly was the beginning because they flash back to Miss Diane, Porsha's mom, making a comment about Shamea. So there's shade being thrown on both sides, but we, the audience, we're only seeing the shade and not the initial. We're not seeing the cause of why the shade is being thrown between the two. That to me is frustration. It's frustrating as an audience member because I want to give a fair assessment to what I'm watching as well. You know what I mean? Especially now I'm reviewing this shit. But so Cynthia basically talks about her struggles of when her and Nene were going back and forth and how she felt like she could relate and their scenarios were similar. Now, I will get with Shamea feeling like she can't talk to Porsha because it turns into something bigger. And, Cynthia made a great point. Like, you just want to go to your friend, like, hey, are we cool? Are we friends? Like, are we cool? And that's when there's a breakdown in the friendship. So, Shamea, I understand where you're coming from, but you got to understand where she's coming from too. Because she's getting secondhand information fed to her by other people that aren't you, that are expressing your frustrations. Anybody would get upset with that. You would get upset with that. Come on. So after that, we go to Drew. Drew, I can't stand. I say it every video, but I'm still going to be fair. It was so interesting, the snippets that we saw of Drew this episode. So Drew is coming back from some type of litigation, meeting something with her lawyer and Ralph's lawyer. And she's on the phone in the car with her mom. She's on speakerphone with her mom, and she's telling her mom what's going on. And apparently Ralph is trying to now have her lawyer recused from their case, basically trying to thwart her whole mission of what she's trying to do. Them two are so petty with each other. It's really sickening. It's like sickening to watch. I didn't realize they've been doing this for 2 years. Did y'all realize that? When she said they've been doing this for 2 years, I was like, really? Oh my God. I don't wish that on nobody. That's terrible. And they live in the same house. It's very toxic. And it seems like both sides are being stubborn. It's very narcissistic type energy. And the only people that are suffering in the middle of this are their children. Which brings me to the next scene. Not the next scene, but the scene following Drew and her mom. So later on in the episode, Drew and her mother ends up coming out. Her mom sensed there was an issue. Her mom comes out. Before, you know what? I want to back up. So Drew contradicts the hell out of herself. So she said in previous episodes, not necessarily this season and other seasons, but she'll allude to not knowing about Ralph's finances. She goes back and forth with it. So in this episode, the scene where she's talking to her mom in the car on the phone, they're going back and forth about the finances. And basically, he's saying that he's the sole owner. So he's saying that he's the sole owner of Juicadora LLC. Why would he even want that? It's just, it's petty. And basically, he's coming for her stuff now. And she's like, I don't understand, Ralph does great. He does great financially. He works hard. But then within 30 seconds of saying that, then you say, he didn't release his financial records. You don't know what he's doing you don't know how he's making his money. But before that, you said girl, Drew. So anyway, so later on in the episode, when her mom shows up at the house to talk, I like her mom because her mom presented it in a way that obviously she heard her mother and she physically couldn't listen to it, which to me really, really shows you what type of person Drew is, or not even shows you what type of person. It gives you a peek further into how she thinks. So her mom is telling her, like, this divorce, this separation with you and your husband is bad and it's affecting your children. And your mom's like, they're acting out more, and they of course, Bravo being messy, flashes to like the daughter not listening, the son not listening, them in the, they're going through it. The kids know what's going on. They're not stupid. Like, come on. So the mom's like, they don't even listen to me. And she's like, I've never had a problem with a kid not listening to me. Your kids are the most affected by this. Drew starts crying and starts basically telling her mom to stop, that she can't take it. I didn't know they were going through this. And then they cut her confessional. They're kids. They don't deserve this. How did you not know they're not going through this? Those are your kids. Talking about you didn't notice the behavioral changes. Like, how self-absorbed are you? You've been battling your your estranged husband who's living in the fucking basement. You guys are having to leave, every 2 weeks or whatever, for a week while he comes out of the basement to live up normally with you. That's insane. And I hope that moment, it seemed like that moment struck a nerve for her. Something happened. Whoa, what's going on? Sorry, my phone is tripping. Anyway, so she kind of gets up and leaves, like, because she's crying really hard, and she walks off camera. And her mom's just kind of sitting there like, and I'm just thinking, I hope that you took something from that moment, because you're not paying. If the fact that you're surprised by this information speaks volumes, Drew. It speaks volumes. Okay. So Shamea and Porsha sit down and meet. Before they sit down, real quick, Cynthia, Angela, and Porsha do go out. They go bowling together. That was a cute little scene. Cynthia talks briefly about the meeting with her and Shamea. Angela chimes in. Porsha basically says that she doesn't have the strength to even get into that situation with her and Shamea. She says that she said what did she say? She's strong enough to admit that she's not ready to do that right now because of everything that she's going through. I understand that, but that's a cop-out, in my opinion. That's your friend. Or is it? Or is she? So anyway, Shamea and Porsha, last scene of the episode, they meet, they sit down. I gotta tell you, this scene was very reminiscent of when Kandi and Phaedra finally sat down to try to hash out what was going on between them. And of course, there was no resolve. There was fake resolve, as with the end of this scene. So they sit down, they chat. Shamea is attempting to address what happened at the Pampered by Porsha event, because that's where things got kicked off between them. Shamea is basically telling Porsha, I feel like you don't show up for me as a friend. I was just expressing how I felt to the other girls. Porsha is touching shit, moving around. She physically could not listen to Shamea, and it was interesting to watch. She was very dismissive. At one point, she yawned. Shamea's like, am I boring you? So much going on in this scene. Now, here's what's wild. Shamea, your tactic to go and make it all about Porsha not acknowledging you, I get that. I understand that. I don't disagree with it. But I think to gain more traction in a conversation and to show accountability, you needed to address the fact that you were talking to the other ladies about her. Now, Porsha did mention about the messages coming back to her through other people. So they briefly touched on that, but it was just so uncomfortable to watch because Porsha was not there. She wasn't giving her all in the scene. She wasn't trying to listen to her friend. at all. So Shamea is continuing to feel how she hasn't been supported. And Shamea, I'll give her this. Shamea does say this. She says, I will admit that I have often not shared with you how I felt about our friendship over the years. I tend to just let it go and be good and continue to support you. And I'm glad that she said that. And of course, Porsha couldn't handle listening to that. So the more Shamea expressed her feelings about how she felt Porsha was treating her, Porsha couldn't handle it. She physically couldn't handle it. She ends up getting up from the table, crying, basically telling her to stop. She tells Shamea, please just stop. Shamea, stop. She couldn't take it. Gets up, leaves, goes to the bathroom, leaving Shamea there, comes back, not crying anymore, sits down like, so are we going to get this food to go? The waitress comes up. Yeah, you want to get our food to go? Completely dismissive. Shamea talks about that. She talked about that prior. She talks about it again. She was dismissive of Shamea's feelings completely. Now, part of me thinks her being dismissive of her feelings is not necessarily because she doesn't want to hear it. That might be part of it, absolutely. But I think she don't want to talk about this shit on camera. Which brings me to the next conversation. So Shamea and her, Shamea's like, I just feel like you're not yourself when you're on camera. You're not the same as you are off camera. That was a bit of a dig, but clearly it's true. And Portia's like, what are you talking about? And she goes, she's like, that's not true. And she's like, yes, it is. You told me that they would have to pay me more. So Shamea, them fighting words, girl. Because now you just. So Porsha gives her a half-ass whatever. Portia's very like, I want to get my food and leave. Just being extra. My cat, Harriet, is doing the most. So, Shamea's like, well, I wanted to have some sort of resolve. And Portia's like, well, we can have that. And she's like, not when you're telling me to stop. Like, you're not, I feel like you're dismissive of my feelings. They kind of give a half-ass whatever, next time when I have an issue with you, I'll come directly to you. And Portia's like, yeah, we can squash it and talk. But we all know we know that's not true. Come on. Because if it were as easy as you're saying it is, Porsha and Shamea, you two wouldn't be in this situation that you're in. At one point, Shamea does mention Miss Diane. And that's because Porsha went back and told her what her mother said. I didn't understand the point of that either. Here's my thing. I feel like Shamea and Porsha are very similar. They're similar. They may not execute things the same way, but they definitely have similar agendas, especially when it comes to each other. I feel like both of them are not being totally 100. And the fact that Shamea brought up the issue between her mom and Portia's mother and won't talk about what the issue is, but brought it up on national fucking TV is crazy to me. I'm like, okay. But this was a good episode, a little more serious. Hilarious scene with Kelly and her daughter. But I'm looking forward to it. I guess Phaedra's coming next week. I don't understand why Phaedra even needs to be here. But we'll see. I mean, Porsha on an island by herself, so maybe she needs an ally. Maybe that's what that's about. But either way, we'll see. Till next week.